everyone. I am so excited to be on this show tonight. Um, First of all, this is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks, and this is Lighting the Way. Usually, Granny raps and rocks, but today I'm not playing the piano. And you'll notice that James isn't sitting here, and a lot of things are different, and that's because we are offering a whole new, exciting program. Uh, and I want to tell you why. We've been doing our show where I do commentary and I play the piano for years, and it's been wonderful. And after the show, we often have a meeting of a group of us who get together and talk about this show, and we call it Seeing Through New Glasses. Well, it just kind of occurred to us how fabulous it would be if we would actually have the discussion on the show. And we can even invite other people. And so most of the people who are in that discussion group are going to show up live tonight on the show, and the rest we'll see later. And this way, you will get the benefit, we hope, of not only my ideas, but how everybody else is reacting, what their thoughts are. I think it's going to be so great. And tonight, to let us get going is this show, Are Women Traumatized by Trump's Win? Now, I want to tell you why that topic came up. When we were talking about doing this, having everybody come on, and by the way, it's men and women, I noticed that some of the women were a little bit less forthcoming, shall I call it, as they had been before. And I started thinking about this, and I started thinking maybe it's because one woman is gay and she's afraid, the other was Catholic and brought up in a very kind of, oppressive environment for women. And suddenly I could just feel that there was so much trauma in this election. Not what is happening now and in the future, which is going to be plenty traumatizing for women as well as men, but that the election itself was traumatizing. And because Kamala lost, women were triggered in some very painful feelings that we have carried for years, for many of us, our whole lives. So I'd like to get a nod. I see my guests are kind of in the background, that I'm not letting them in yet. Are you hearing me? Okay, this is all, we don't even know if this is working. We don't know if we're streaming or not. So maybe somebody will find out. Check if we're streaming. Yes, we're streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Yay! Okay, awesome. Okay. Most of us women, I don't know anybody who doesn't fit in this category, but I don't want to say all because, then I'll definitely be wrong, have been put down over and over and have been abused and have been raped and have been molested and have been silenced and have been ignored and have been hit and have been bullied. And it goes on, right? During our lives. Now, I am 79 years old, and you know what that means? That means that when I was born in 1945, I don't think there was a woman in Congress until I don't remember when. It was all white men. And by the way, this also applies to people of color and so on, and certain gay people. And it has been a struggle. And when I was a child, there was no expectation that a woman could do anything other than be a mother. And I'm not putting down mothers or wives, but it was like that was it. That was your role. That's what you did. And the first inkling I had that there was something really wrong, well, there were two inklings. One inkling was we would have these big holiday celebrations, Passover, Thanksgiving, etc. And the women would have been cooking for hours. And then after having cooked for hours, we had the ceremony run by the men. I was Jewish. I grew up in a conservative Jewish family, and the men would do their prayers and everything. And the women got to read, along with the children. And then after all of that, everyone ate. And then guess what? The women were in the kitchen again cleaning up for hours. And it was just like, okay, I look at this and I have nothing to compare it to. So I'm thinking, well, I guess that's the way it is, right? And then I went into the synagogue. Thank you. Elizabeth says, wow, great topic. I'm hoping, I don't know. Let me see if I can make it. Oh, I think that people on who are watching actually might see these comments. So, um, so then I would go to the synagogue on Saturday, and every Saturday there was a prayer that said, "Thank God you didn't make me a woman." And I want to tell you that I have heard so many esoteric explanations for that. That was in the Saturday prayer every single week if you went. And oh yes, I've heard these elaborate explanations that that's not really sexist. It's because of this and that, and I don't care what it's because of. I'm sitting there in that synagogue. The rabbi is a man. The cantor is a man. The only people who counted, you couldn't even have a ceremony if you didn't have 10 men. And I thought, thank God I wasn't born a woman. Excuse me, I think I was. And so it went from there. And, I discovered as my life went on how bad things were for women. I didn't even realize how bad it was because in my family, even though the women did all those things, um, there was some respect. But we were lucky. I left the house and I discovered that women were beaten. I certainly discovered that women were molested and sexually abused before I left the house. That I did get to discover, but afterwards I found out that women were considered very inferior in many parts of our society, and that we didn't get equal pay. Do you know? You probably know this. That women couldn't even get a credit card on their own name until 1974. How are you supposed to do anything? Open a business, have any economic independence? And it was just like that. And then, guys, I mean, not only was I sexually abused and raped and assaulted and molested on the subway and have men leering at me and having all that stuff, but when I was raped, I was interviewed by male policemen who told me that it would have been better if I had died than to have let myself be raped, even though I was tied up with electrical wire, gagged, and blindfolded. But anyway, I discovered the world, and I discovered the world of sexism. It's so bad, and I couldn't avoid it. I walked down the street, men would whistle. Yes, believe it or not, years ago, men would whistle when I walked down the street, but it was not a compliment. It was icky, and I felt very vulnerable. And in the workplace, it was awful. I mean, all the women were the secretaries. But you know what was worse? I used to be in the movement. We called it the movement, the anti-war movement, the women's movement, the ban the bomb movement, the workplace organizing movement, and I supported the uh, civil rights movement. I wasn't in it myself. Um, and in the movement, guess what we women were doing? Making coffee. And who was doing all the talking? The men. And it didn't make any difference if they were high or ignorant. And I'm not blaming the men. They just sailed into this. And, I don't think that being a man is so great either. They had a lot of responsibilities. And in my family, the women always worked a second job outside the home because we were poor. Work in the home, outside the home. My mother washed the bathroom floor before she left for work every day, and it just never stopped. And in relationships, I was hit. My first husband taught me chess, and when I beat him, he pushed me onto the floor. I want to tell you, day in and day out, I knew that it would be a fight for anything. And of course, in those days, we didn't have no fault divorce, and that was a nightmare. And I went to Mexico for a divorce, and my lawyer and two of his bullfighting friends tried to rape me. I don't know how I got out of there, except that I hit, I hit them with my foot, pushed them out with my foot. See, but that wasn't at knife point. So you see that there's a difference there. Anyway, my mother used to say, "Don't let them know how smart you are." And I thought she was joking. She wasn't joking. Don't let a man know how smart you are. Why? Because poor men have been socialized into the idea that they've got to be smarter than you, on top of you, making more money than you. And, as women have fought back through great effort, what has happened is that these poor guys, they're lost. They don't know what to think. They don't know who they are. They're committing suicide, because women are getting ahead. Well, think about this. You're a little boy, and who's taking care of you most of the time, especially in my day, was mommy. So here you are, women are inferior, but who's telling you what to do? Who's telling you to take out the trash? Is a woman an inferior is telling you what to do? Anyway, imagine the confusion, the upset that men are feeling as women. And the other thing is, we all know this from experience and from science, is that women develop faster than men. So when you're going to school in the early days, the men were behind. The boys were behind and the girls were smarter. Well, I mean, this really went against the grade. So I'm not even talking about, being a part of a religion that specifically says that women are supposed to obey their husbands, except that was the marriage vow in the old days, right? Love, honor, and obey your husband. But the husband wasn't supposed to obey the woman. Now, all of this, do you have any idea how traumatized women are? And now, what happens in 2024? We have a man running for office who has not only been demonstrated to be a sexual abuser and who is now nominating all kinds of sexual abusers. By the way, there's somebody who just put a comment in the private chat. Try to put it in the regular Facebook or YouTube chat. Otherwise, it's just going to be private. Like that's among us. But I can see what he said. I relate. I was raised to believe that I should always be one up on the woman. This has created a lot of problems for me. So anyway, if you have a comment, put it in the regular Facebook or YouTube comments. So, and there is going to be time for people to comment very shortly. Now, here we have this man threatening everybody, scaring everybody, putting down the disabled, which I happen to be as well, uh, sexualizing women, putting down women, and he has a campaign based on misogyny, sexism, and racism. Now, I know that people have talked about the election and there are problems, a lot of economic problems, and there's this and that. But see, Donald Trump did not run on those things. His advisors kept saying, talk about this, talk about that. He didn't care. What he wanted to talk about was women, putting down women, putting down people of other races. That was his campaign. Did you see that Madison Square Garden rally? And you're watching that fellow, oh, I'm blanking out his name. I can't. Tucker Carlson says publicly that Daddy Trump is coming home and he's going to spank us women because we've been bad girls. Lots of women have been spanked or beaten because they were bad girls, right? And so I thought about my friends who seemed down, really down, not just, I mean, really like suppressed kind of down. And I realized all these years of trauma, of abuse because you're a woman, was being re-triggered by this election because he ran on that. And he had a vice presidential candidate who ran on that, the childless cat lady guy. You know who he is, right? Now, you tell me that when he won the election, massively supported by men, and unfortunately supported more by white women who have been brainwashed into thinking that that's okay, that we should be treated that way, that that's our role. Imagine the trauma, the woman who's been beaten, who's been raped, who's been molested, who's been harassed, who's been ignored. Having that be the basis on which this man runs and wins, I can't believe that women didn't feel like devastated. That after all these years of struggle, I mean, it's already happened. It already happened with Roe v. Wade, right? Women losing rights. This is not a joke. Gay people are being threatened. Trans people are, poor trans people that don't even have a chance. I know that women feel traumatized by this election, even if they don't know that this is the reason. And how do I know that? Because I felt it. I felt it too. I sat there and I just felt like, and it all came back to me. All of it. All the ways that I've been abused by men. Now, I don't want to blame men. I can talk about this on another show. It's like, what happens to men and why they're like that. And here's what I say to them all. I don't care whether or not you tell me you respect the role that women play. Oh, mothers and wives and this and that. I know you want to be on top because you've been brainwashed into thinking you are supposed to be on top, as James said. And you are like devastated yourself by not being on top. And that's why all these young men were like, ho, 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 joking and laughing at women during this election and putting down women and, lyrics from songs about raping women and sexualizing women. It isn't that I don't respect women who want to be, quote, well, I'm a wife, wives and mothers. It's that I don't want to be in any role at all. I want to be me. And what I say to you men, if any of you are listening right now, is it's not about you finding a new role because women have found their voices. And by the way, we are not going back. And it really doesn't matter how much you try to oppress women again. Women are not going back. And it's going to be a fight, let me tell you. And it's going to be a fight in the bedroom and the boardroom. Some of these men are wondering, well, why do women not want to marry us? Well, because you're insensitive oafs who always want to dominate. That's painful. But I say to you men, you don't need a new role. You need you. You need to be you. I don't want to be in any role. I don't want you to be in any role. I want us to all find our deepest selves and be ourselves, how we can be. And I have a lot more to say about that. But now I'm going to bring on my guests. We have, shall I let you guys introduce yourselves? Let me try this. I have no idea how this is going to work. I'm trying to do this and we'll see. Okay, I'm bringing you on. This is Lizzie. She'll introduce herself.
Hi.
This is Christine.
Hi, Christine.
This is Todd. This is Amy. And here's James, who is,
His screen often looks like that.
that's all right. Don't laugh. Don't laugh.
Okay.
Obviously, James had a little trouble figuring out quite how to do this. But James, maybe you'll be able to get your camera. If not, you are here, and just speak up when you need to. Okay. So, would each one of you like to introduce yourselves and say how you relate to this topic? Who wants to start?
I'll go.
Okay, Lizzie.
So, my name's Lizzie, and I relate to the show because I have been noticing since the election that uh, I feel less confident in working with some of my clients who are men. And I've been feeling this, and I didn't even realize this was happening until I saw the topic of tonight's show, that some of them are kind of like presenting themselves as, hey, I'm the one on top. And I'm like, uh, so it's made it more challenging for me to work with some male clients. Um,
Yay, James made
oh,
it.
hi, James.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you
to
very
see
much.
you.
I didn't mean to be hard on you, Amy, but I don't like us to, we can't laugh at each other when we have a problem.
I'm sorry. That was my mistake.
Thank you for apologizing. I
Thank you,
really
Amy.
appreciate that. Okay, Lizzie, back to you. So some of them are showing a little more attitude than they did before.
Yes, they were. But today, after I knew this show was happening, I just felt more committed to be connected to myself.
Yay.
And I noticed my interactions with them was different. I actually was able to connect to them more. And I
Hmm.
didn't, and so I don't know, I didn't feel that sense of, that they had more attitude. It was because I was connecting with them, they were connecting with me more,
Hmm.
and it made a difference.
That is very inspiring. It really is.
Hmm.
And, a lot of men, they may not show the attitude, but they can't help it. I mean, I've noticed that if I'm with a man and I'm talking and there is a male doctor in the room, suddenly I have nothing to say. I mean, it's like he's only listening to the male doctor who's wearing the jacket, right? It is so unconscious. And could you mention any trauma that you feel has actually been triggered in you? What trauma do you think? Because we all have millions of traumas, but would you like to share something?
Well, I'm the lesbian who is afraid of what's going possibly happening in our country now with Trump being elected. Um, but I have talked with my wife, and we don't want to leave the country. We do want to stay. I don't know what it is we can do other than just be ourselves and try and just just be ourselves. I mean, if we meet people who don't seem to like us, somehow try and talk to them and be like, hey, I'm just a person. I'm no different than you. So it has brought up a lot of fear and insecurity because it's like, gosh, well, are we gonna? What might happen? And we still are gonna get our passports just in case, but we don't
But
have any big plans to move.
isn't this triggering feelings you had growing up being a lesbian and not feeling like you could be out?
Ah, yes, yes, definitely. Um,
That's it. It kind of puts you back in an old mentality and
yeah,
an old fear. But it's not the same because we're here. And there's a lot of
yes,
people here. And there are a lot of people who are out. It is going to be really hard to put all those people back in the closet. The problem was that when you were growing up, people were in the closet. And now
yes.
they're out. And it's like, Pandora's box. How do you get it back into the box? So, so thank you so much for sharing that. Who,
Thanks.
this is fun and it's working. And you actually said that it's actually playing on YouTube and Facebook. I'm so excited. Yes. Okay, James.
Yeah, I'd like to add to the comment that I made in the private chat, and that is by trying to be top dog in my relationship with my wife, which happens to be you, uh, uh, it keeps creating resentment on my part whenever I am not being the top dog. I'm not being smarter because you're a very smart lady. I'm not being more enlightened, more wise, more with it. Uh, and so, and when you have these times when you're just really shining, and really doing great, where am I? I should be applauding and happy for you and all that stuff. And in many ways, I am. But in another way, I want to bring you down, suppress you, so you're not above me, so that we're equal. We equalize. And I don't do this on a conscious level very much, but on a subconscious, you feel it. And then it lies you flat. It makes you weaker. It weakens your energy field. So I've really got a lot of work to do on myself to just accept that I am who I am, you are who you are, and hallelujah if you have talents and gifts that you can contribute, and I do too.
Well, I really appreciate you saying this in front of the whole world, James. Of course, we should be only so lucky that the whole world is watching. But hey, guys, which this reminds me, if you are on Facebook, give this show a love or a like, and follow us on Facebook and share the show so that James' confession can be worldwide. And similarly, if you are on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, right? And subscribe to our channel and click on the notification and share this show. So it takes courage to admit this. And I think, you are of a certain age and you did grow up the same era that I did, where all of this was completely ingrained. But I am horrified to see how many young men, because we thought, I don't know about you, but I thought, oh, yeah, um, that when that things had changed so dramatically, but they haven't changed that dramatically. There's a lot of people who are okay. Somebody is typing, or okay, okay. Somebody needs to mute when they're not talking. Okay, it's okay. It's not making
We
noise
all do.
anymore. Thank you. Uh, was that so? And
I
anyway,
was just saying we all
I
need to
think
be
it's
if you're
great,
not.
James. Okay. Uh, Thank you. Okay. What I said in the show, it's not about pushing me down. It's about being yourself. It's not even about lifting yourself up. Like, oh yeah, if I make $80,000 and you make $20,000, for instance, it's not like, oh, now you have to go out and make $80,000 or $100,000. I mean, you have to do what you're supposed to do. If you're making $20,000 doing it and that's the right thing for you to do, you don't have to lift yourself up. You can just be yourself. And it's that's the idea. It's that we can all just be ourselves. That's all we women want to do is be ourselves, not have to live up to. I mean, you know me. Some of you know me. I hate seeing powerful women on television or movies wearing high heels like this. I'm thinking, what? What? Don't you know that's bad for your body? So thank you for that comment, James. Okay, who would like to speak next? Christine had her hand up. Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Christine, and I can relate. I've suffered sexism and racism being half Japanese, and that's definitely triggering. I remember like just casual remarks, and I'm younger than you, but this was in like the late mid 90s. I would be talking with a colleague, a senior colleague, and he helped me out on something. And I remember him saying, like, now you owe me a blowjob. And this is in the
He said,
workplace. Yes. I mean, it was joking, but
of course, but
ugh,
still.
you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
disgusting, right?
yeah, it
And
is.
I remember being, I was a speaker on a panel at the MIT Enterprise Forum, the San Diego chapter. And so I had, you have like your lanyard, and mine has like the speaker thing on it. I was probably in like my mid 30s, and this guy just comes up to me. He's like, "Aren't you kind of young to be a speaker?" And I'm like, would they say that to a guy? No, a petite, like half Japanese woman, yes. And it was just, and this was like at the like cocktail reception, before the
That was
event.
before they had the cocktails or when they were drinking.
They probably were drinking already, and I'm just like, God, you could have just said like, hi, you know what I mean? Like, who do you work for? Or what, like, why do you have to say that? And I know, like, looking back on that, like I had something really unique to offer that panel, and I contributed it despite all of this. And it wasn't because I was so awesome. I'd happened to work on a client whose experience was so relevant to the case study that we're working on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but like these types of things, I know, and thank God I'm working in public relations, and in this industry, there are a lot of women, thankfully, a lot of powerful women, and a lot of men who have made peace with a lot of powerful women. But so one of them made me know the salary he made, and we had the same title, and he made $90,000 more than me. Now he does have more experience, and I know when he came in at a national level. But I was thankful though, because wasn't doing it to brag. He was doing it like, he's like, part of the issue is being a woman, but also I've just been with my company over 20 years, and you don't get like the increases from switching jobs all the time. But then my next boss was male, and he's like, yeah, we got to fix this. And so he actually raised my salary to more than what I was asking for. But so I've seen different things, but it doesn't, I mean, it matters and it doesn't matter. Like, some of my brain is computed that some things have changed for me, but my brain still has all the experiences.
Yeah.
And I grew up, I was born in 1970. So at that time, I guess women couldn't get their own credit cards.
Nope.
So I just internalized everything from my mom, what she could and couldn't do, and just what women could and couldn't do. Saw her suffer racism, like all of that, I feel like is triggered. And honestly, sometimes I don't even want to be aware of it, because I feel like if I am aware of it, I have to fight it.
Mm-hmm. You just want to ignore it
So
and go on.
just like, ugh.
Just ignore it and go on like it's not happening, right? It's not worth my energy.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about something, but I want to ask Todd if he's okay with this. It's about the pillowcase.
Sure.
I can see you. Okay. So the other day we were making the bed. We'd washed the sheets and we were making the
So
bed.
Todd and Christine are another
We're
couple.
married. Yeah, we're a couple. And
Lizzie and Amy are not married, so you.
no. So we were making the bed, and I was over. I grabbed a pillowcase and I put it on this pillow. Well, the pillowcase was a standard, and the pillow was this like long, like, I don't know what's like deluxe size pillow. So I was like, oh shoot, it's not working. And so I was just going to take it off and get the right pillowcase for it. But Todd said, oh no, you just need to pull it and stretch it. There's like this much difference between the pillow and the pillowcase, right? And I just said, did you just mansplain putting a pillowcase on a pillow to me? And we laughed about it, right? But in his mind, it's just, I'm like, honey, like I can figure out how to put it, like, if you really wanted to help me and I asked for help, but it's not that I did it wrong. It was the wrong pillowcase for that.
Oh God.
And
Yeah.
I can figure that out all by So I don't know. We ended up like rolling on the floor practically in stitches, and we just now tease Todd for mansplaining, putting a pillowcase on a pillow for me. But that's just the kind of thing. Like, luckily we have that, and we could laugh about it. But there's so often, and it is with you, with my husband, because he's been so conditioned, right? Like, I got to bring it up, and I got to bring it up, and I got to bring it up, because it's painful. It's painful for him because he hates being that way, right? And it's painful for me because I have to confront something. But I think this is like the only way we kind of like change things.
Yeah. Well, I really understand. And do you feel like deep down that you have been traumatized by Trump's win?
Um, I did feel that I had this like visceral reaction to it.
Okay. That's all I
Absolutely.
wanted to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. And by the way, I totally understand what you said about Todd and thinking that he absolutely always knows more than you do about something. I experienced that too. So who would like to share next? Amy,
Well,
would
I'm
you
not
like
that
to?
much younger than you. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, my name's Amy. I'm a harpist and a physician. Um, well, I went to med school. There were 25% women. Now there's over 50%. And I did not experience anything untoward in medical school. But in my residency, there was this one fellow who I was attracted to, who was my tending. And so I liked his attention. So that made it a gray zone. But he said things that were inappropriate ultimately. And a group of us got together who had had various experiences with him. Mine was the most notable in terms of really off.
Hmm.
And I said it to this group of women. And in the end, they decided, oh, we don't really want to hurt his career. So we're not going to report any of this. And I
Um,
could see that's why women are now reporting on things from the 80s, because the things they said in the 80s didn't go anywhere.
yeah,
And the flip side of this is sometimes when James comes on a group of us, it starts out that same way. And I have a chip on my shoulder about men, and I have no problem making fun of them. And so I'm
thank
sure,
you, Amy. That's fabulous. That's how you. I didn't say it, but you acted it out right then and there, and you just owned it, and that is so fabulous. Thank you.
oh, well, thank you. So I realize I'm waiting for a guy to act like a jerk and then point it out,
Right, and
except
then it was
I
Todd's
don't.
fault that there was noise in the show, and it wasn't. So yeah, we noticed. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we have
I
to
was like,
take
it's stupid
responsibility.
men.
Right.
Although it's not like I feel that confident necessarily all the time. And the idea that
Well,
Trump could do the things that he's
yeah,
done personally and the people he surrounds himself with is just outrageous. It just is horrifying as a woman and just as a person that people would go for what he stands for. And the
yes.
fact that I was so hoping that Kamala would win and we would finally have a woman and a woman. I hate saying mixed race. It means like what, just a woman, but no, it wasn't enough. And I thought, God, our country is so far behind so many other countries as far as
Well,
women go. But yeah, I grew up with men are the standard.
yes.
They're everything. They're the president. They're all the orchestra members, all the physicians. They're the
Right.
standard. And women are a smaller version of whatever it is. If they talk about medication dosages or things like that, the standard is men and white men at that. And uh, that's a whole other topic. Um, but I would just say that I got to find out. I feel like I was on the cusp of limitations, and then not so many limitations, but the old recollection, like Christine was saying, of the experiences of older limitations are still there, and they're still they still react when something looks similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you have any of that, you think, in your own family?
It's kind of hard to say. My mom was very smart. So was my dad. He was a PhD. My mom went for a master's in teaching, and she loved teaching. my dad put her down for not being a principal. She said, I don't want the job of a principal. I want my own class where I call the shots. I don't want to deal with the politics of other teachers. But he made it
But
sound
it
like
is,
she was.
well, listen, your father was a PhD, your mother had a master's. He was a scientist, she was a teacher. You know, every Jewish grandmother, my grandmother used to take me, Bonnie, used to call me Bonnie. You got to be a teacher. You got to become a teacher. So they really were in the roles
Yeah,
that,
that's true. They were, except that she was held back by them. She was much more powerful than she allowed herself to be.
well, but isn't that often the case? And so I love that. And Amy, I love the fact that you combine being a harpist, which is a very feminine kind of lovely, with being a physician. Although nowadays there are more and more women. So I
Well,
love
the funny
that.
thing is, though, I thought it's more feminine to play the harp.
Yes.
But if you're from Paraguay or or many South American countries, it's all men.
Oh,
No
I
women
know,
play the
I
harp.
know. But you
I
see,
didn't know that. But I mean, it just shows how what we think is the case is
yes,
limited. Even when we think it gives us freedom, it's still limited.
it's so arbitrary, isn't it? Arbitrary, and so much of it is arbitrary.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
someone once asked me if I have an automatic entry to heaven because I play the harp. And honest to God, I paused. This was at a question answer section. And I said, I don't know yet. That was
You'll
true.
find out.
I don't know yet.
Thank you. Thank
Anyway,
you. That was a great show, too. Who feels next?
so seething resentment towards men.
Well,
Yes.
I'm the only one who hasn't shared yet, so I guess I'll go next.
Right, right.
I was uncomfortable coming onto this show because of my past, unconscious and conscious put downs of women. I mean, there are many throughout my relationship with Christine, for example. Like I would just like move her out of the way in the kitchen because I consider myself to be the better cook. And so literally, like I would just like go, okay, you move over. I'm taking over. It's not going well, in my opinion. Right. And many other things. And she's had to confront me on those things. But what I love about that is it has forced me to change. Like, okay, do I want to get divorced? Do I want to have lose the love of my life, or do I want to change? So that's how I've taken it on. It's like, oh, yuck. But, okay, this is an opportunity for me to kind of change how I've been and how I was raised. And like you said, it's so automatic for us as men. My dad was, very dominating in our family. And he spanked me. And so, I kind of got that message and I wanted to be the king too, because he was the one that had all the power and that's what I saw. So that's what I wanted. It's like, okay, well, you either dominate or you get dominated. So which am I going to choose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill or get killed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have more.
I
What
do.
you're
Okay.
saying is great. I really appreciate it. Again, I appreciate the honesty everybody is displaying here. You have more, Todd.
All right. Because the topic is, are women traumatized by Trump's win? And I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I'm traumatized by his win, as a man, because it just feels so threatening to the things that, all of us care about, our planet, people, whether they're, what people they are. So that for me it is traumatizing to, you might think, okay, well, guys are going to feel fine, but being a
No,
white male, I don't feel fine about it. It's, but
you know what's coming to mind about what you're talking about is, and that was a very important comment that you've added. By the way, I have to say I love this conversation. I love this format. I love the way this is working. I value what each person is bringing, and we're going to do this again. And you guys are invited to come back. Um, so every once in a while we'll have a guest. Uh, and but beyond, but I really would like to continue doing this because I think this has been very, very good. But what I really felt, Todd, is how many men, and you already said it, your father was very domineering. How many men have been treated like women?
Mhm. Yeah.
Men who've been raped by men in prison, men who've been beaten by their mothers or fathers, bullied in school, humiliated because they had, quote, feminine characteristics or were interested in something other than football or lost that little league game or didn't get the big promotion to the big job, got fired. How many men have been belittled, ignored, abused,
Mhm.
sexualized? And so I just want to add that the part of you that is me, that relates to me and every other woman, is traumatized. That anyone can get away with this, just like you were saying about, but just taking it from this angle, that anyone can get away with being a bully, and that he can nominate people who's are going after people, like to scare everybody, just like he scared the Republican Party. He's trying to scare everybody. And all those abused little boys and men who are just like us women are going to be traumatized too. So, Amy, and then I'm going to close.
Oh, I just want to say that when I laughed at the beginning and you told me not to laugh, I almost went into, well, then I'm out of here, which I've
Yeah.
done before in other groups. And I thought, don't do that. And I just know first of all, I appreciate that you don't allow things to go unnoted that need to be noted.
Thank you.
I don't necessarily like it, but I thought you always make things useful. I've often said you make everything gold, no matter what we say, including mistakes.
Thank you.
But that I thought, no, don't do that. And if it weren't that I knew that a group is listening, I might have just left.
Yes.
But I thought, no, I can bring more to this than that.
And that is, I would love to close because, I'm sort of thinking, well, this is a good amount of time for this group. And I think it's been a very, very rich discussion. And I want to really, what do you do? That second, Amy's motion. I'd love the way everyone, because we have had most of us, except for Christine, have been in the Seeing Through New Glasses group, and it has not been like this. It hasn't been this good. And people came on and they took responsibility for what they said and what they had to say. They thought about the topic, and each one of you made a real contribution as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how our audience feels, but I feel it very deeply. And that's why I love this. Everybody really brought what they had and behaved differently, because finally we were all the parents instead of the children, right? And we have a sacred responsibility to ourselves, to one another, and to our world to take our work seriously, to work on consciousness, trying to elevate consciousness, awareness, and love. So please come back next Wednesday for Lighting the Way with Beth and Friends, Beth Green and Friends. And I am certainly hoping for another panel. And please leave us some comments about how you felt about this show. But I don't care what you say, I'm doing it again. Because we are not going back, right? We are not
going back.
That's right.
Not
We're
going
not
back.
going to be traumatized. I mean, we may be traumatized, but we say, whatever, I'm going forward. So thank you so much for listening. Please come back next week and tomorrow night James and I will be back at the piano for Magical Improvs with the Kindred Spirits Band at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on Facebook and YouTube. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.